It's an unpleasant feeling. Everyone is regrouped, but there's one rider missing. A puncture, a rest break, a wrong turn. After a few minutes, your thoughts turn toward a crash and you start the search. The longer it takes, the more you think of worst case scenarios. Fractures, unconscious, bleeding out, dead already. 2 years ago we were on a ride where a guy died on impact after riding into a ditch. The only reason we spotted him was a rider crashed nearby and spotted the fallen rider. More recently, another rider clipped a tree and crashed into a ditch, unconscious, bleed on the brain, trapped underneath his bike with fuel dripping into his clothing. Thankfully, he woke up and managed to weakly wave an arm, and passing riders stopped and called emergency services. And a friend of mine almost died when he crashed on a short solo ride in the local forest and broke his pelvis. He had no water and was close to dying from hydration when someone discovered him 2 days later. Another friend was in a coma for 2 weeks after a nasty crash and still lives with the effects of a brain injury. It could have been much worse if we hadn't got into hospital so quickly. So nobody likes a bunch of rules when it comes to motorbike riding. But when you have lost a rider due to serious injury, you realise a few basic rules and procedures can be incredibly important. Are you into solo riding? This video has a pile of useful tips that will give your family some peace of mind and might save your life. Our group has seen too many injuries to enjoy solo riding. So let's look at all the strategies to reduce the chances of losing a rider when you are in a group, how to find them quickly, and how to alert emergency services. The rider briefing. If there's anyone new to your group, discuss where you are going, how you mark your corners, and procedures if something goes wrong. It can be a good idea to share phone numbers too. Corner marking. There are plenty of good videos about this. It's simple, but it's remarkable how often riders can mess it up. There are two general ways, so make sure your riders know which one you use. Regular regrouping. If you lose a rider who is seriously injured, you have a lot of searching if you haven't regrouped for say 40 minutes. Regrouping can be tedious if your group likes to continually ride fast and consistently. But trust me, it's a horrible feeling when it takes ages to find an injured rider who's in a lot of pain. Intercoms. I don't think these are essential if you have good procedures in place, but man, they are very useful. We use Senna intercoms on our adventure rides. Our lead rider warns us about upcoming hazards. If an injured rider is conscious, they can speak to you once you are in range. This Senna mesh technology allows the whole group to connect if riders aren't too far spaced apart. So you can actually do a head count verbally. Cardo intercoms have the same mesh technology. Riders often argue about whether high-vis gear is safer for road riding. It isn't usually discussed for off-road riding, but it can make a crashed rider easier to spot. Once it turns dark, it's bloody hard to find an injured rider who has left the track. Any bright colours or reflective strips on riding gear or the bike can make a big difference. I have heard emergency personnel complain about how hard it was to find an injured person who was wearing camouflage clothing. Your phone. Try to use a service provider with the widest coverage in remote areas. Make sure it's easily accessed and not buried in your gear. Imagine trying to make a phone call with two broken arms. Use Google Maps and share your location with other riders in your group. It's free and you can clearly see where each rider is if you have phone reception. Even if reception is patchy, Google Maps can narrow your search as it shows the last known position of a lost rider. There are other apps too, such as Workyard, GPS Essentials, Spotwalla, Sigic and LiveTrack24. If riders are using the Garmin Zumo GPS, you can see other riders using Garmin's Group Ride app on your phone. This is very handy as it doesn't rely on phone reception. There is a limited range, but a crashed rider will show once you are within range. Apparently the Trailtech Voyager Pro has this feature too with its buddy tracking. For Australian riders, a very useful app is Emergency Plus. Just hit one button and your location is sent to emergency services if you have phone reception. Let us know if there's a similar app in other countries and we'll include this in our pinned first comment. How to contact emergency services if you don't have phone reception. iPhone 14 and 15 phones can already use satellites to alert emergency services and communicate via text message. This will be available on the Android 15 system on phones with updated hardware. This has been confirmed for the Google Pixel 9 and Samsung Galaxy S24 so far. Hopefully, we may be able to track riding buddies via satellite one day. It would make finding a lost rider much easier. Many riders already use locator beacons and emergency transmitters like ePerb, Garmin inReach and Spot. You can get satellite communicators or communication anywhere on the planet. Remember to keep your device accessible. For example, if you can only move one arm, you probably can't get your backpack off to make contact. Make sure you keep your devices charged via a USB outlet on your bike. This is a huge area. Do your research. Think about doing a first aid course or at least reading about basic first aid. And of course, carry a basic first aid kit. Finally, beware of brain freeze. When the shit hits the fan, it's surprising how long it takes to actually start any action. A group can easily waste 15 minutes discussing if and when they should start backtracking. Remember the rider who died on impact in that ditch? We spent 2 minutes discussing whether we should remove his helmet in case of a spine injury. But we suspected he wasn't breathing and urgently needed CPR. In moments of crisis, your brain can take ages to make a prompt decision. What about you? Have you had to look for a rider who was injured? What happened? Did you put strategies in place for future rides as a result? Let us know in the comments. We are keen to learn from these experiences and we will include your tips in the pinned first comment.